So I just thought of giving some more examples on our disaster setup because थोड़ा और clarity आ जाएगा. And what I'll specifically try to do in this particular video is I will try to speak in English for my English viewers. Basic English would be there. So मेरे हिंदी वासियों आपको पिछले वीडियो में ऑलरेडी क्लैरिटी मिल चुकी है. This particular video I want to keep it in English so that even if people who don't comprehend Hindi so well are having difficulties, they can easily understand this setup. So in this particular setup, we are taking almost 4 parameters. What are those? Actually 5 parameters, but 4 are the broader parameters. One is the EMA 40 day. That is, we are trying to take, if a stock is above 40 EMA, it is considered as to be in a bullish tone. If it is below the 40 EMA, it is considered to be in a bearish tone. Other than that, we are also trying to look into the strength of that trend. So if it is above 50, if the RSI, relative strength of index, is above 50, we are considering it to be strong. And if it is below 50, then we are trying to consider it as weak. Other than that, we are also trying to look upon something called ADX, which is a trend gauging indicator. If it is above 25, that clearly shows that there has been some momentum and trend. If it is below 25, it shows that yes, the particular stock or indices are trying to sustain, but not with that great momentum. As of now, another final thing is the psychological level, which is usually the whole numbers. If the stocks are below 100, there is no hard and fast rule to understand which is the right psychological level. But I particularly say that if a stock is below 100, we'll take in a range of 5 to 10 points. So if a stock is at 94, we would say that the immediate shortest resistance, psychological resistance, is at 95 and the broader resistance is at 100. That is precisely, and the bigger the stock, the bigger the range it would be for the psychological level. Other than that, we also look onto the volumes and the size of the candle, and that's precisely the reason why we are trying to pick up volume candles. So now let's quickly take some non-FNO or at least some FNO stocks and then some non-FNO stocks. Let's take 2-3 examples. So let's first go and check Naukri. What exactly is happening in Naukri? So one thing is pretty evident that the ADX, if you can clearly see the trend, has been inching up and it went above 25 pretty well over here. Okay, that's number one. Other than that, we see that the RSI was also having a strength today. As of now, when I'm recording, the IT pack has been strong. So I've got a couple of orders placed also, but anyways, that's a different thing. And you can see that almost most of our parameters are matched. Currently it is quoting at 52.25. So we can clearly say that 5200 is a psychological support, and despite this dip, it is because the ADX is above 25 and it has not slipped below this thing, we are not going to initiate any short. It is still into a positive horizon. In fact, a lot of people think, was it possible to even think of this kind of move? Of course it was possible, because you can clearly see that ADX for a pretty extended period of time sustained above the level 25. So always remember, ADX, simple rule, it has to be above 24 and 25 in case you want to initiate any proper trade with higher probability. A lot of time when ADX is not moving anywhere, so just look into this range. Okay, I'll show you this particular range where ADX for a very significant period of time remained between 18 and 19, and you would realize that that was the region where ADX kept on confusing a lot of people, giving a lot of false breakouts and breakdowns, again retesting this thing, again trying to go up. In fact, in 2020 when that corona fall happened, the very moment ADX went above 25 and this started sipping below 40 EMA, as well as the RSI kept on falling below 50, it was a basic necessity. It was a basic understanding that yes, the sellers are trying to dominate. So always try to remember that whenever these kind of things actually happen, that is a significance, that is a sign that the buyer or the seller are dominant over there. So now let's take some stocks which are non-FNO. So let's start with Rain Industry, because I'm just talking about those which are having decent amount of volumes over a significant period of time and also give you an indication. So one thing is pretty clear, that if you would have observed Rain Industry is trying to give you a bullish sign first because it was above the 40-day EMA. Since it's a low level stock, like below 200, we could have taken a 50-50 difference, 50 and 50 to 10 point difference for finding out the psychological level. So anyways, let's see when did it start trending. So just look at ADX. This is precisely the day when it started trending, and it was again an interesting day. Why? Because although it started trending even before this thing, see, let's see. Okay, so this is where it made 23 point something. Should we initiate a buy or sell? Of course not. But if it supports 180, we can. So see, it took a sideways zone, but now the ADX came out to be a decent zone. But the close on this particular candle was 179.25. Here it is 183.6, which is above 180. It is above the 40 EMA. The RSI is above 50, and the ADX is also supporting. So slowly one could have initiated these things. But then you can clearly see it took a time. It retested this level. And after that, let's see. And then slowly after staggering and spending some decent amount of time, it finally started taking a move. So one can clearly observe that the more trending this ADX becomes, the better move that particular stock gives. So once you start seeing that, yes, from 22 to 23, 23 to 24, 24 to 25, 26, then there's the high possibility it will give you this thing. Now let's see why it is resisting on these zones. We can see 236, 238, 240 precisely. So we can clearly say that there is a psychological resistance around 250 wherein rain industry needs to break to continue its performance. So as of now, should we short sell rain industry? Of course not. Anyways, we can't because it's a non-FNO stock, but in any case, we should not. And what is the trend if someone asked you? Yes, it is damn positive. Let's look into another one is IRCTC. Although now it is in futures, but initially it wasn't. And you can clearly see for how long this ADX remains into trend in this particular stock. So one can clearly make out that this has been onto a perennial good uptrend. Other than this 2020 during the corona fall, you can clearly see even post IPO, this is precisely where it took support. And just see. Okay, some might be having this question that in non-FNO stocks, often you will get these kind of candles in between. The answer is pretty simple, what we understood into the watchlist system, that whenever you're going for a non-FNO stock, the possibility of some whipsaws would be more because of the lack of liquidity and participation. FNO based stocks, those who are in FNO have significant participation in cash as well, because a lot of big traders are also trading as well as a lot of big investors are also investing. So if you are taking some non-FNO stock, take only when all the parameters are matched and take for a pretty long period of time. Now, interesting thing, do you see this thing that a lot of people might wonder that this big candle happened all of a sudden, but we had a good entry right from this place. See, it tried to break on an uptrend, it couldn't sustain. It had a good bullish candle over here, which is above 550, 572 was the close. ADX was above 25 and it was at 27.1. So although it mellowed down a little, but it was still above 25. RSI above 50. So anyways, if you were tracking Avanti feed, this was a good entry. So you cannot say that one couldn't catch this thing. You could have easily caught onto this move if you would have entered over here. And after a big move, 654 is basically where it went. So 650 approximately could be your stop loss because of the nearest psychological level. And the very next candle it broke. And now it is trying to take a sideways zone with the close around 642. So what we can make out is 650 now is a psychological resistance. And if you want to add some price action, you clearly see this is the resistance around 665. Okay, 665 to 670 is precisely the resistance where you need to be little alert. Let's take into another one, that was Gland. Okay, let's see what exactly is happening. Again, see, the ADX is in momentum, RSI is in momentum, this is in momentum. The obvious question is, how can we track this thing? So there are multiple ways through which you can actually track these things, which I am going to talk about in the next video.